So, something a little different for you this week. I've known for ages about my location and how restricted I am in terms of what antennas I can use. Don't really want to be drilling holes and doing all the things that go with that. But I've tried pretty much everything. I started off with a humble folded dipole that I made out of some really crappy coax inside a PVC tube for VHF and UHF. I've got my interest set up on SDRs. I progressed and made a tripod a couple of years ago when I was just experimenting with the location and wanted to see what I could do with it. That served me for VHF and UHF, and also had a little stuff for 1090 megahertz. I then invested some time and effort into the mag loop. I'm still investing time and effort in it. It isn't finished yet, but it's a lot of faff to tune around for each band. So over Christmas I got really frustrated, and the weather was bad, and reception wasn't what I wanted it to be, and I was getting a bad SWR on my 10 metre long wire. Due to the rain, the wooden fence it's hung on, the wire moving around, who knows, there's all manner of things that affect it. So I thought it was about time I did something about it. So the first thing I did was to look if it was a good idea to get a mobile HF antenna. And I found a few people who were using them on multiple bands, which I thought was quite a reasonable idea. So I was going to invest 25 quid in one of those and get myself a mag base. I ummed and ahed and looked at it, and then I thought, well, I then found a video of somebody using a HF vertical antenna. And I always thought these were going to be really massive things with TK brackets and all sorts of things. And then I found the Moonraker GPA80 and a couple of videos on the subject. Now bear in mind, this is all about my personal location. Everybody will tell you what the best antenna is because it's the one they've got. Well, you might have room for a flipping long wire. I've been watching, what's his name from... Anyway, I've been watching all those videos and he's coming up with all these ideas of what you can do in a restricted space. Well, I'll tell you now, he ain't seen a restricted space because he hasn't seen the size of my garden. It's about 3 flags wide round the side of the conservatory, and that is your lot. So a 10 metre long wire or something vertical is all I can do. So, having got this GPA80, I had a wander around the garden. Should I mount it on the side of the garage? Not sure. Probably rip holes in the garage because it's so old. Not very happy about that. Should I mount it on the concrete posts that are holding the fence up? Same thing really. They're pretty old and not very stable. So in the end I managed to find a location for it, as you can see from the shot that is in the frame now. And indeed, at the side of my bungalow, I drilled some holes and I mounted it. And there it is. It's is it 5 or 6 elements? It's 6 metres long altogether. And they brag quite a lot in the specifications on the one hand, and on the other hand they don't give you a lot of instructions. They don't suggest what band you should tune it for. There's a good reason for that. And they also don't tell you much about the assembly, other than you're supposed to have each section 10 centimetres into the one underneath. So, here's how I got on with it. Is it any good? We'll find out, won't we? Keep watching. So I've spoken before about the limitations of my location. So I live in a little bungalow, and you can see various feeds coming out from the window. Because it's a rented property, I don't want to drill holes in the wall, and I've resisted doing so for quite a while. That strange looking object is a 4G external antenna. I'm about 2 miles from the nearest transmitter on the 3 network, and I use Smarty as my internet provider. So if we follow the wires along, you'll see a very open and unweather protected ballon. But it's been fine. You know, it's been up for 2 years nearly. So if we follow the cable along, one's obviously a long wire. The other one is an RG58 feed, which goes down to the U-loop at the moment, and I try a different antenna on that feed. That's the washing line in the way. And then the end fed carries on. It has been used as a washing line, I must admit. And then just taking it down the length of the garden. Runs along the top of the fence, probably wants rejigging because of the winds we've had. No comments about the state of the garden, please, it's winter. And then it carries on along here and eventually terminates here. Well, it actually drops down to a long wire there, which sometimes I push across to the shed over there. So that's the long wire I've got at the moment, and I think it's time to try something else. So we shall see, we shall see. So I'm not normally impressed by boxing, but today, congratulations to Radio World. What they did was they put the box in another box. So there's the antenna box. Well done, Radio World. And that's the antenna I've bought. GPA80. So I'll just show you this before it all goes up in the garden. In the bottom we've got an SO239, nice big bracket, about 9 inches long, 200 odd millimetres. And then you have 17 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 sections altogether. So you can imagine how tall that's going to be when I put it up. So let's erect it. Not bad for a one-man job. It's relatively discreet. Doesn't show up very well at this time. But you can see down here is the mount. And up there, you've got a sky. It is.
One day later.
Okay, so we've erected the GPA80. All seems to be well. I've done some preliminary checks. And obviously I'm making a video, so I did it once and now we're going over it and having a look. So I'll do a comparison. So we're using SDR Connect under Windows 10. And we're using the We're using the SDR Play RSPDX. The joy of which is that it's got 2 antenna inputs. So antenna B is the new antenna and antenna C is the long wire. So we're just arbitrarily on the medium waveband, so let's have a listen. And you can see straight away the signal is stronger on the long wire. Kind of what you'd expect on AM, broadcast AM. So yeah, I'll turn the AGCs off so we get a good comparison. So although the signal is less, the interference is less as well, so not a bad thing. That's the problem that I've read a few people having with long wires, is that they do pick up RFI that's caused by local devices. I can also confirm it by turning on my power supply. So there's my power supply. It's particularly bad in the medium waveband. But if we switch to the other antenna, switch to the long wire, it's obliterating half the flipping waveband. So, you know, I turn the power supply off. Completely the wrong type of power supply for amateur radio, but hey, we try these things and see what happens. But you can see all this swirling that's going on in the band. These are not radio signals per se. They're not broadcast transmissions, they're not amateur radio, it's just RFI. And I've turned my power supply off. So if we go back to the vertical, there we go. So we get a nice little signal going on there. So let's have a look at the amateur radio bands. I don't expect anything on top band, to be honest, and it's not particularly relevant because you can't transmit on it. So let's go straight for 80 metres. Now there have been some contests on this weekend, as ever. There appears to be some Morse going on there. Is this true? So again, I'm the radio guy. That's on the vertical. On the long wire, again it's there, but the noise is there more. Now this is going to be very dependent on your location, so I'm not going to make a big noise about it, but in my location it's better. We'll go to 60 metres. I rarely pick anything up there, but I probably don't hang around long enough, and the majority of it is moss anyway. 40 metres, again there's a contest on. So we'll just pick a transmission. So again, nice busy band, nice clean transmission, that's on the long wire. Not much difference on the vertical, and that's kind of fine, you know, so long as there's not a horrendous difference. 30 metres, don't use, and it's generally CW anyway. 20 metres. So that's on the vertical. That's on the long wire. Not a massive difference. Let's find a weaker signal. Never mind. 17 metres is irrelevant to me personally. 15. Oh, that's quiet. Now we're on the long wire. So we'll have a listen to some Ritty. That's on the long wire. That's on the vertical. So that's good news, and you can see the signal to noise is improved. Again, there's a lot more to it than that. Now 12 metres, I only listen to, not a lot on there at the moment. So if we go on the long wire, it's as deaf as a dodo. Now I know this through many tests that I've done. Try the vertical. There's a little bit of signal there. Now, on my Xiegu, I did actually listen to a couple of contacts on 10 metres before. I've never heard an amateur radio guy on 10 metres. Only when the skipper's really been on, it's been exceptional. So there's not a lot there now. Now they also make some wild claims about this antenna going all the way to 6 metres. Well, we'll try it. Go to the long wire first. Now I'm going to be honest, I don't get a lot of activity up here in the first place, so I may as well tune in interference. Classic RFI, switch mode power supply, banging away. A signal. Signals. People. Human beings. If I can tune the damn thing in. Okay, bit of Ritty. Will it stay on long enough to do the comparison? Dead as a dodo on the long wire. So that's a good thing. We've made some gains on reception. We'll try 4 metres. Don't think we'll see anything. Don't usually. And again, you could spend longer. Yeah. Not a lot. So from a reception point of view, I think it's fair to say I've made some gains. But what happens when we transmit? And this is where the story gets interesting. So I'll change the antenna over and we'll have a look at that.
A few moments later.
Okay, so how does it transmit? Well, let's be honest, all we're really interested in is the SWR. So I'm going to try setting a quick transmission on each band so we can see the SWR. Okay, so we know it receives, both antennas receive pretty good actually, but the vertical does have some gains. So how does it transmit? So I'm on the long wire, and I'll do the long wire on each band, and we'll have a look at it. All we're really interested in is the SWR at this point, because we know it receives. If it receives, it'll likely transmit. The transmission capability really depends on the SWR. So I'll do a quick tune up on ET. This is on the long wire. 1.17. Okay. On 40. 1.16. So far so good. 20 metres. 1.37. Also not bad. 15 metres. Why am I only picking 4 bands? The Xiegu can only transmit on 4 bands. 3.8, 3.9, not very good. So that is your long wire. Okay, so I'll just pause the recording, swap the antenna over. Now before I do, when I tested this morning, it was blatantly obvious that I was having problems. On a couple of bands the SWR was inconsistent and all over the place, mainly on 15 metres and 20 metres. And on 15 metres in particular, I thought the SWR was really bad, but it wasn't. I was basically getting RF back into the shack, and this is one of the things where my long wire is driven via a balun, or an unbal, a 9-to-1 balun. And what that does is it reshapes the signal from an unbalanced signal to a balanced signal, and it gives it a virtual earth, so that you're not getting RF down the coax of the receiver. So having a problem with my coax on the vertical antenna, there's only one cure for it, and most of the cables in and out of my radio have got common mode ferrite beads on, but for the antenna you need something bigger. So I fashioned one with an arbitrary number of turns, which is 9, on a ferrite core I had lying around as a starting point. So I'm going to be connecting this up. This is in the coax for the HF vertical. So now I'm going to set this up, and this sorts the problem out, and you'll be able to witness it in action. Okay, so we're now on the HF vertical. So we'll go down to 80 metres and we'll just do a tune-up. Just checking everything's showing in the camera. .16, that's good. That's on 80, on 40, 1.5, still good. Happy with that. 20 metres, 1.3, very happy. For me, my sort of benchmark's 1.5, but I'll transmit on anything. If it'll work, when I say anything below 3 to 1. But I'm not, doesn't mean I'm happy about it. The auto tune on this will trigger at 1.3. This is 15 metres, 1.17. Now, what was happening before on there was the sound card was behaving as if it was unplugged. My mouse was freezing, and it was purely due to RF coming back. Now again, full disclosure, in addition, I've tidied my desk up. It now looks a lot better. I put the PC over one side, the radio's over the other, the power supply in the middle, and my SDR. So everything is separated out now, there's less chance of things interfering. got these ferrite beads all over the place. The other bit of full disclosure, yes, I've reviewed this antenna. I've bought this with my own money. I'm not being paid or incentivised in any way, shape or form. So I'm giving you my honest opinion. Now I read a couple of comments on the forum about it being a rebadged CB antenna. And also the instructions are somewhat Spartan. Spartan instructions. At this stage that it can get an SWR on all these bands. It quotes 1.5 to 1 on 80 metres, 2 to 1 on 40 metres. This is without a tuner. 2.5 on 20 metres, 3.5 on 17 metres, I can't trust a bit on that. 1.5 on 15 metres, 3.5 on 12 metres, 10 metres 1.5, so it's looking like it favours multiples of 10 metres. And on 6 metres, 3.5 to 1. I don't think you'd want to be transmitting on that for very long. But it does state VSWR 1.5 to 1 or better with an ATU. And I'll agree with that. And there is a balun in the bottom of it, I believe, a 6 to 1. And what that does is it fudges it to work. It's not a bad fudge. I'm not complaining. I'm happy. It's better than what I had. I also checked it with the Nano VNA, and it was very obvious that it drops around 10 metres, the SWR. It doesn't really do much anywhere else. There was a bit of a drop down to, I think it was 3 to 1 at 40 metres. So based on that, it was a disappointment. But having sorted out my RF problem in the shack, I'm happy. And as you can see, we're on 15 metres, we're picking people up. Got a few more things to check out on this, probably a little more tweaking to do. But basically, for what is basically a £100 antenna, I'm happy with it. It gives me things within my location and stability that I didn't have before. Hopefully it'll be less affected by the weather because it's more clear of buildings. Most of it's above the roof of the house. And I'm hoping it'll also serve in other directions. Oh, I'll tell you what I can show you. Okay, so these are where I was heard on the last 24 hours on PSK Reporter. So I built the antenna about 3:30 yesterday. I hadn't got the common mode rejection choking, so it wasn't as stable as it should have been. But even then, a similar time to now, 23 hours ago, I was getting out, I was being heard on 80 metres. That's something that didn't really happen before. So if we have a look at 40 metres, and yeah, we'll expect it to be better. Busy, quite busy, you know, and I've been doing a lot of things, so I've not necessarily been broadcasting at the best times, but today, this morning, we were able to log some contacts on 40. Always had good contacts on 40, never been able to complain about that. Let's have a look at 20 metres. And there we are getting out a much wider range. Before it used to only be into Eastern Europe. We did get heard in the States. I normally get heard, but normally don't get a contact. And I think it's because people in the States, and the danger of working QRP, if you will, is that if people have already logged a country, they won't chase you. You know, if you're the first that they hear and you're QRP, they haven't logged that square this week or whatever, or this country this week, they'll chase you. If you're coming on at the end of the grey zone, they're not really interested. They've already had it from this country. And I think that's what puts them off. So sometimes it's like banging your head against a brick wall. Now we've still got some way to go to log on 15 metres. But I haven't transmitted on 15 metres since I put the choke in, apart from the little test that we've just done. So what I will do, now that 15 metres is stable, we'll do a little transmission for a couple of minutes. We'll just see if we can log it on PSK Reporter. We'll just let it do a couple of overs, a couple of cycles, and we'll see what happens. It's not dark yet, so it's not going to be everything that we would hope. If we get any contacts, fair enough. Interestingly enough, a bit of contested or something going on there. Whenever I look for contested, I can never find it, but that's another digital mode that I want to experiment with, and I'm hoping this will give me some edge. I'll just let this run out for a few overs. And there we are getting out. So straight away, just on the last couple of minutes, we're getting down into Syria and across into North America, Kentucky. That's just on one over. That's not even been going for a minute yet. So there we are. It is possible, it is improving. And when the grey zone hits, I'm hoping it'll go a lot further. So give me your comments by all means, and remember, there's a different antenna for every situation. The guy next door will get a different result to what you will. So nobody can tell you you need to buy one of these antennas. Don't go and buy this on my recommendation, but consider it if you've got restricted space. I'm sure it's a perfectly good antenna if you haven't got restricted space, but I think, for a modified CB antenna, that's where it's going to come into its own. Slow updating today, this. And there we are, they've got another. But yeah, you take a chance with any antenna, and if you don't like it, you can always take it off the wall and sell it. But it seems to do something for it's better than the 25 quid whip I was going to mount on top of the garage. That would have still been shielded. It's given me the maximum height I can, really. It's higher than the chimney on the house. It does give me a bit of aspect to the northwesterly, but to the east and southerly, I've always had it, as you can see, it just bounces out everywhere. So I welcome your comments, and I'll see how it goes over the next few weeks. And when the grey zone hits in, we might be able to get some decent contacts. So this is compromised, as everything is, but we'll see what happens over the next few days. So thanks for watching, best 73s, and bye for now.